Welcome to today's episode of Ancient Mysteries Unveiled. Picture this. It's 400,000 years ago, long before the Great Ice Age that would challenge humanity's very survival. In the limestone cliffs of what we now call France, a small group of early humans huddles around a flickering fire at the mouth of a cave. The flames dance against the rocky walls, casting eerie shadows that seem to bring the painted animals to life. These weren't the cavemen of popular imagination. They were sophisticated survivors who had unlocked one of nature's greatest secrets. But here is what will shock you. These early humans didn't actually live deep inside caves, as we've been told for decades. Victorian archaeologists got it completely wrong. The truth is far more fascinating and reveals an intelligence that rivals our own in many ways. How did these ancient people survive in a world filled with cave bears, saber-toothed cats, and bone-crushing hyenas? How did they turn cold, dangerous rock shelters into warm, safe homes? And perhaps most intriguingly, how did they master fire, language, and complex social structures without any of the technology we depend on today? Tonight, we're going to shatter everything you thought you knew about early human survival. We'll uncover the shocking truth about cave dwelling, explore the revolutionary discovery that changed everything, and reveal how these remarkable ancestors didn't just survive. They thrived in ways that would put many modern humans to shame. The story begins not with weakness, but with one of the greatest technological breakthroughs in human history. Chapter 1. The Great Misunderstanding. For over a century, we've been telling the wrong story about our ancestors. Walk into any museum, open any history textbook, or watch any documentary, and you'll see the same tired image. Primitive cavemen living deep underground, grunting around fires, barely scraping by in the darkness of limestone chambers. It's a compelling picture that it's almost entirely false. The truth about early human cave dwelling is far more sophisticated and shocking than Victorian archaeologists ever imagined. When they first discovered stone tools and human remains in European caves during the 1800s, they made a critical error in interpretation. They assumed that finding artifacts in caves meant humans actually lived deep inside them. It was a reasonable assumption at the time, but modern archaeology has revealed they were spectacularly wrong. Dr. Brian Fagan, one of the world's leading experts on Ice Age archaeology, puts it bluntly. Our Ice Age ancestors didn't live deep in caves as Victorian archaeologists once believed. Instead, these early humans were master engineers who understood something modern people often forget: location. Location. Think about caves for a moment. Most of them are dark, cold, and damp. They're often occupied by dangerous predators like cave bears, cave lions, and massive hyenas with bone-crushing jaws. The back chambers have no natural light, no ventilation, and no easy escape routes. Why would intelligent humans choose to live in such conditions when they had other options? The real story begins at the cave mouth, that crucial transition zone between the sheltered interior and the open world. This is where early humans built their homes, but not in the way you might think. These weren't crude camps thrown together for a night or two. Archaeological evidence from sites across Europe and Africa reveals sophisticated, long-term settlements that show remarkable planning and engineering skill. At places like Pec de Lazy in France, archaeologists have uncovered layer after layer of human habitation stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. But here is the fascinating part. All the evidence of human activity is concentrated in one specific area, the entrance zone. Protected by natural rock overhangs, but still open to light and air. These early humans understood concepts that modern architects spend years studying. They knew about wind patterns, thermal dynamics, and structural engineering. They selected cave mouth locations based on several critical factors: protection from prevailing winds, southern exposure for maximum sunlight and warmth, nearby water sources, and natural surveillance positions to watch for predators or prey. But the Victorian misunderstanding goes deeper than just location. It shaped how we think about early human intelligence and capability. The caveman stereotype suggests primitive, barely human creatures living in constant fear and ignorance. The reality reveals people who were master craftsmen, skilled engineers, and sophisticated social organizers. Consider the evidence from Terra Amata in France, dating to between 380,000 and 230,000 years ago. Here, archaeologists found not just random scatters of tools and bones, but carefully organized living spaces with distinct areas for different activities. There were tool-making areas, food preparation zones, and specially constructed hearths designed for maximum efficiency and safety. The hearths themselves tell an incredible story. These weren't simple fire pits dug into the ground. Early humans engineered sophisticated combustion systems with carefully arranged stones to reflect heat, channels for airflow, and positioning that maximize both warmth and protection from wind. Some hearths show evidence of being used and maintained for generations. Even more impressive is the evidence for modifications to the cave mouth environment itself. Early humans weren't passive occupants. They were active renovators. They cleared debris, leveled floors, built up walls, and even diverted water flow to prevent flooding. At some sites, they constructed elaborate drainage systems to keep their living areas dry. The tools found at these sites also shattered the primitive stereotype. Alongside basic cutting implements, archaeologists have discovered specialized tools for different tasks. Hide scrapers with carefully designed edges, bone needles for sewing, composite tools made from multiple materials hafted together, and even what appear to be early prototypes of more complex implements. Perhaps most fascinating of all is the evidence for long-distance trade and communication networks. Tools made from stone materials found hundreds of miles away, shells from distant coastlines used for decoration, and similar tool-making techniques appearing across vast geographic regions all point to something remarkable. These early humans weren't isolated in their caves. They were part of sophisticated social networks that spanned continents. The misunderstanding about cave dwelling has obscured one of the most important truths about our ancestors. They weren't primitive survivors, barely clinging to existence. They were intelligent, adaptable, and remarkably successful. They developed technologies and social systems that allowed them to thrive in environments that would challenge even modern humans. This revision of our understanding has profound implications. If early humans were this sophisticated 400,000 years ago, what does that tell us about human intelligence and adaptability? How did they develop such complex solutions to survival challenges? And perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from their approaches to living sustainably in challenging environments? The answer lies not in primitive cave dwelling, but in understanding how these remarkable people engineered solutions that worked for hundreds of thousands of years. They weren't living in caves. They were transforming them into something entirely new. Chapter 2. Masters of Fire and Heat. In the depths of Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, archaeologists made a discovery that would rewrite human history. Embedded in sediments 1 million years old, they found the earliest confirmed evidence of controlled fire use by human ancestors. This wasn't just opportunistic scavenging of lightning-struck vegetation. This was intentional, managed combustion that changed everything. But here is what makes this discovery truly extraordinary. The evidence shows these early humans didn't just learn to maintain fire. They engineered entire heating and cooking systems that were incredibly sophisticated. The mastery of fire wasn't a single breakthrough moment. It was a gradual revolution that transformed cave mouth, living from basic survival to comfortable domesticity. Understanding how early humans controlled fire requires us to think like engineers. Fire isn't just about making flames. It's about managing heat, controlling airflow, creating safe combustion zones, and maintaining consistent temperatures. Archaeological evidence from caves across Europe, Africa, and Asia reveals that our ancestors understood these principles far better than we ever imagined. At Kesem Cave in Israel, researchers discovered hearths that had been used continuously for over 200,000 years. These weren't simple fire pits. They were sophisticated heating systems engineered for maximum efficiency. The hearths were positioned to take advantage of natural air currents, surrounded by carefully selected stones that absorbed and radiated heat, and maintained at sizes that provided optimal warmth without creating dangerous smoke buildup. The secret lay in understanding thermal dynamics. Early humans discovered that cave mouths create natural chimney effects. Warm air rises and draws in cooler air from outside, creating circulation that could be controlled and managed. They learned to position fires to maximize this effect, creating comfortable microclimates that could be maintained even in harsh weather. But fire mastery went far beyond simple warmth. These early humans developed specialized burning techniques for different purposes. They created high-temperature fires for toolmaking, using specific types of wood and arrangements that could generate the heat needed to improve stone tools through thermal shock. They developed low, smoky fires for food preservation, understanding that different types of smoke had different preservation qualities. Perhaps most remarkably, they learned to create controlled burns for manufacturing purposes. At sites like Schningen in Germany, archaeologists found evidence of fire being used to harden wooden spear points, a process that requires precise temperature control and timing. Too hot, and the wood burns. Too cool, and it doesn't harden properly. Getting it right requires understanding wood properties, fire management, and precise timing. The cooking revolution that followed fire mastery was equally sophisticated. Early humans didn't just throw meat on flames and hope for the best. They developed multiple cooking techniques that rival modern methods. Archaeological evidence shows they practiced roasting, smoking, steaming in earth ovens, and even what appears to be early forms of boiling using heated stones and waterproof containers. These cooking techniques had profound biological and social implications. Cooked food provides more calories and nutrients than raw food, supporting larger brains and bodies. It also made many previously inedible plants digestible, dramatically expanding the available food supply. Some researchers argue that cooking was so transformative that it actually drove human evolution, enabling the development of our large brains and complex social structures. Fire also revolutionized toolmaking in ways that go far beyond simple heating. Early humans discovered that fire could be used to extract useful materials from the environment. They learned to burn animal bones to create calcium carbonate for various purposes, heat-treat stone to improve flaking properties, and even create early forms of adhesives by processing tree resins with controlled heating. The social implications of fire mastery were equally profound. Firelight extended the usable day, creating time for activities beyond mere survival. Archaeological evidence suggests that many of the sophisticated cave paintings found in Europe were created by firelight, with artists using the flickering flames to create illusions of movement in their animal portraits. Hearth areas became social centers where groups gathered to share food, tell stories, and pass on knowledge. The maintenance of fire required cooperation and planning. Someone needed to keep the flames alive, gather fuel, and manage the combustion. This created natural opportunities for task specialization and social organization. But maintaining fire in cave-mouth environments presented unique challenges. Wind patterns, humidity, and seasonal changes all affected fire management. Early humans developed sophisticated understanding of these variables, learning to predict and adapt to changing conditions. They created windbreaks, built up hearth walls, and even developed early forms of damper systems to control airflow. The fuel gathering for these fires was itself a complex operation. Different types of wood burn differently. Some provide long-lasting coals for cooking. Others create high heat for toolmaking. Still others produce minimal smoke for enclosed spaces. Early humans became expert botanists, understanding the burning properties of dozens of different plant species and managing forest resources to ensure sustainable fuel supplies. Evidence from multiple sites suggests they even practiced early forms of forest management, using controlled burns to encourage the growth of useful trees and prevent dangerous accumulations of dry vegetation near their cave-mouth homes. This level of environmental management indicates planning abilities and ecological understanding that rivals modern conservation practices. The psychological impact of fire mastery cannot be underestimated. Control of fire meant freedom from the natural cycle of day and night, independence from the fear of predators, and the ability to survive in virtually any climate. It represented humanity's first major technological triumph over the natural world, the beginning of the journey from environmental adaptation to environmental control. Modern experiments recreating early fire-making techniques reveal just how sophisticated these skills had become. Using friction methods with fire drills and bow drills, expert practitioners can create fire in under a minute under ideal conditions. But achieving this level of skill requires extensive practice and deep understanding of materials, techniques, and environmental conditions. This mastery of fire would prove crucial as early humans faced their greatest challenge yet, the approach of the Ice Age, and the need to survive in environments far colder and more dangerous than anything their ancestors had ever encountered. Chapter 3. The Architecture of Survival. When we think of architecture, we imagine steel and concrete, blueprints and building codes. But 300,000 years ago, early humans were already practicing sophisticated architectural principles that would make modern engineers envious. They transformed simple cave mouths into complex, multifunctional living spaces that provided everything from climate control to defense systems. The key to understanding early human architecture lies in recognizing that these people were not just seeking shelter, they were creating homes. Archaeological evidence from sites across the world reveals that cave mouth modifications were extensive, planned and passed down through generations with remarkable consistency. At Conde l'Arago in France, archaeologists discovered evidence of what can only be called prehistoric urban planning. The cave mouth had been divided into distinct zones: sleeping areas, cooking areas, tool-making workshops, and storage spaces. Each zone was engineered for its specific purpose, with features like drainage channels, storage pits, and specialized floor treatments. The engineering principles these early humans employed were remarkably sophisticated. They understood load-bearing structures, creating stone walls and supports that could handle significant weight. They developed effective weatherproofing techniques, using combinations of animal hides, plant materials, and stone to create barriers against wind and rain. Most impressively, they engineered climate control systems that could maintain comfortable temperatures year-round. The construction of these cave-mouth homes required extensive planning and coordination. First, the natural cave mouth had to be evaluated for its structural integrity, drainage patterns, wind exposure, and defensive possibilities. Then, the space had to be modified to address any deficiencies. This often meant major construction projects involving moving tons of stone, diverting water flow, and reshaping the natural environment. One of the most remarkable examples comes from Spy Cave in Belgium, where archaeologists found evidence of a complex multi-level construction. Early humans had built platforms, stairs, and even what appears to be an early form of roof structure extending outward from the natural overhang. The engineering required to create stable, safe structures in this environment demonstrates understanding of principles that would not be formally codified by architects for hundreds of thousands of years. But the sophistication went beyond mere structural engineering. These early architects understood the importance of ventilation systems. Cave mouths can become smoky death traps if airflow isn't properly managed, especially when fires are burning continuously. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans created deliberate ventilation channels, positioned openings to encourage air circulation, and even built what appear to be primitive damper systems to control airflow. The floor systems these people created were equally impressive. Rather than simply living on bare rock or dirt, they engineered multi-layer flooring systems. The bottom layer typically consisted of larger stones for drainage and insulation from ground moisture. The middle layer was smaller stones and gravel for stability. The top layer was often organic materials like grass, leaves, or animal hides for comfort and additional insulation. Storage was another crucial consideration. Early humans created sophisticated storage systems within their cave-mouth homes, including sealed pits for preserving food, elevated platforms for keeping materials dry, and even what appear to be early refrigeration systems using the natural cooling properties of deep cave systems. The defensive architecture is perhaps most impressive of all. These cave-mouth homes weren't just comfortable, they were fortified. Early humans understood that their shelters needed to protect against both animal predators and potentially hostile human groups. They created multiple defensive features: narrow entrances that could be easily defended, escape routes through back passages, observation posts with commanding views of the surrounding area, and even early warning systems using positioned stones that would create noise if disturbed. Some sites show evidence of truly remarkable defensive engineering. At La Côte de Saint-Brelade on the island of Jersey, archaeologists found evidence of what appears to be a sophisticated trap system. Early humans had modified the cave-mouth environment to create natural choke points where large animals could be driven and killed with minimal risk to the hunters. The construction techniques employed were surprisingly advanced. Early humans developed methods for cutting and shaping stone with remarkable precision. They created mortise and tenon joints using stone tools, built stable arch structures that have survived for hundreds of thousands of years, and even developed techniques for creating smooth finished surfaces on rock walls. Tool specialization for construction was equally sophisticated. Archaeological sites reveal evidence of tools designed specifically for building: heavy hammers for breaking and shaping stone, precision chisels for detailed work, measuring tools for ensuring proper proportions, and even early forms of levels for creating flat, stable surfaces. The planning required for these construction projects was enormous. Building a sophisticated cave-mouth home required coordinating the work of multiple people over extended periods. Someone had to plan the overall design, organize the collection of materials, supervise the actual construction, and ensure that the finished structure met the community's needs. Evidence suggests that these architectural skills were passed down through formal teaching systems. The consistency of construction techniques across multiple sites and time periods indicates that knowledge was being systematically transmitted from generation to generation. Young people learn not just how to use existing structures, but how to plan, design, and build new ones. The maintenance of these cave-mouth homes was itself a sophisticated operation. Stone structures require ongoing care to remain safe and functional. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans regularly maintained their homes, repairing damage, upgrading systems, and adapting structures to changing needs. Perhaps most remarkably, these early architects understood the concept of scalability. As communities grew, the cave-mouth homes were systematically expanded and modified to accommodate larger populations. This required understanding not just immediate construction needs, but long-term planning for community growth and development. The environmental integration of these structures is also noteworthy. Rather than simply imposing human designs on the natural environment, early humans created buildings that worked with natural systems. They used existing rock formations as structural elements, incorporated natural water flow patterns into their designs, and positioned structures to take advantage of natural climate patterns. This architectural sophistication challenges everything we thought we knew about early human capabilities. These were primitive people huddling in natural shelters. They were skilled architects and engineers, creating sophisticated homes that provided comfort, safety, and functionality that many modern buildings can't match. The techniques they developed would form the foundation for all future human architecture, from the first permanent settlements to the great cities of the ancient world. Chapter 4. The Hunt Masters. The morning mist clings to the valley floor as a group of early humans move silently through the tall grass. Their quarry, a massive aurochs weighing nearly a ton, stands grazing peacefully, unaware that it's being stalked by some of the most sophisticated hunters in Earth's history. This isn't a desperate struggle for survival. This is a precisely coordinated military operation executed by master tacticians who have turned hunting into high art. The evidence from archaeological sites across Europe, Africa, and Asia reveals that early humans weren't desperate scavengers fighting for scraps. They were apex predators who developed hunting techniques so effective that they could take down animals many times their size with minimal risk to themselves. The sophistication of their methods rivals anything developed by modern military special forces. At Mislia Cave on Mount Carmel, archaeologists discovered evidence that completely revolutionizes our understanding of early human hunting capabilities. The bone assemblages dating to over 200,000 years ago show something remarkable. These early humans were consistently killing prime-aged adult animals, the strongest, most dangerous prey available. This wasn't opportunistic scavenging or hunting weak, sick animals. This was deliberate targeting of the most challenging and rewarding prey. The hunting techniques employed were incredibly sophisticated. Rather than simply chasing animals with crude weapons, early humans developed complex strategies that involved extensive planning, coordination, and specialized roles. Archaeological evidence suggests hunting parties operated like modern military units, with scouts, drivers, ambush teams, and specialists for different types of prey. One of the most remarkable hunting sites is at Roche de Saluter in eastern France, where evidence shows early humans conducted organized hunts for tens of thousands of years. They developed a systematic approach to hunting wild horses and reindeer that involved using the natural landscape as a weapon. Hunters would light coordinated fires to drive herds into narrow valleys where they could be safely killed in large numbers. This type of coordinated hunting required extraordinary levels of planning and communication. The timing had to be perfect. Too early and the animals would escape. Too late and they would scatter. The fire patterns had to be precisely controlled to direct animal movement without causing panic. The kill teams had to be positioned exactly where the herds would arrive, ready to dispatch animals quickly and humanely. The weapons developed for these hunts were technological marvels in their own right. Early humans created the first composite tool, sophisticated spears with carefully shaped stone points hafted to wooden shafts with adhesives made from processed tree resins. These weren't crude sticks with sharp rocks tied on. They were precision instruments engineered for maximum effectiveness. The stone points themselves show remarkable sophistication. Using techniques like the Livallois method, early humans could predictably create sharp, durable points with specific shapes for different hunting situations. Some points were designed for piercing thick hide, others for causing maximum bleeding, still others for penetrating between bones to reach vital organs. But the real breakthrough was the development of throwing weapons. The atlatl, or spear thrower, effectively doubled the range and power of thrown spears. This meant hunters could kill dangerous animals from safe distances, dramatically reducing the risk of injury or death. Archaeological evidence shows these weapons were in use at least 40,000 years ago, and possibly much earlier. The tactical coordination required for successful big-game hunting was extraordinary. Hunters had to understand animal behavior patterns, predict migration routes, coordinate their movements across large distances, and execute complex maneuvers with split-second timing. They developed sophisticated communication systems using signals that could coordinate actions without alerting prey animals. Tracking was itself a complex science. Early hunters became expert readers of the landscape, interpreting footprints, broken vegetation, scat, and countless other signs to determine not just where animals had been, but where they were going and what they were likely to do next. This required understanding animal psychology, environmental patterns, and predictive modeling that rivals modern wildlife management techniques. The butchering and processing of large animals after successful hunts was equally sophisticated. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans had detailed knowledge of animal anatomy, understanding exactly how to disassemble large carcasses efficiently. They knew which cuts provided the best meat, how to extract maximum nutrition from bones and organs, and how to preserve meat for future consumption. Food preservation techniques were remarkably advanced. Early humans developed multiple methods for ensuring that large kills could feed communities for extended periods. They practiced smoking, drying, and even primitive forms of fermentation. Some sites show evidence of sophisticated storage systems that could keep meat fresh for months. The social organization required for these hunting operations was complex. Success required coordination between multiple family groups, shared knowledge about animal behavior and hunting techniques, and systems for distributing the results of successful hunts. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans developed formal protocols for organizing hunts, assigning roles, and sharing resources. Risk management was also sophisticated. Early humans understood that hunting large, dangerous animals carried significant risks, and they developed comprehensive strategies for minimizing those risks. They created backup plans for failed hunts, emergency procedures for dealing with injured hunters, and alternative strategies for different environmental conditions. The seasonal scheduling of hunts shows remarkable understanding of ecological patterns. Early humans didn't just hunt randomly when they were hungry. They timed their major hunting efforts to coincide with animal migration patterns, breeding seasons, and optimal environmental conditions. This required long-term planning and detailed knowledge of natural cycles. Training systems for young hunters were elaborate and systematic. Archaeological evidence suggests that learning to hunt required years of preparation, including practice with miniature weapons, observation of animal behavior, participation in smaller hunts, and gradual assumption of greater responsibilities. The consistency of hunting techniques across time and space indicates that knowledge was being systematically passed from generation to generation. The weapons maintenance and improvement was ongoing. Early humans didn't just make tools and use them until they broke. They continuously refined their weapons, developing better materials, improved designs, and more effective techniques. Archaeological sites show evidence of experimental weapon designs and gradual improvements in tool technology. Perhaps most impressive of all was the development of specialized hunting strategies for different types of prey. Early humans understood that hunting mammoth required different techniques than hunting deer, which required different approaches than hunting fish or birds. They developed specialized toolkits, tactics, and team compositions for different hunting situations. The success of these hunting strategies was remarkable. Archaeological evidence shows that early human communities were able to maintain stable, well-nourished populations, even in challenging environments. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, with enough surplus food and time to develop art, religion, and complex social structures. This hunting mastery would prove crucial as environmental conditions became more challenging and early humans faced their greatest test: surviving the onset of the Ice Age. Chapter 5. Sacred Spaces. Deep in the caves of Lascaux, France, an extraordinary scene unfolds in the flickering light of animal fat torches. An early human artist, their face concentrated in the dancing shadows, applies pigments made from ground minerals and charcoal to the cave wall. But this isn't just decoration. It's part of a complex spiritual and social system that bound communities together and helped them survive in a challenging world. The evidence for sophisticated religious and social practices among early humans is overwhelming and revolutionary. These weren't simple hunter-gatherers living from day to day. They were complex spiritual beings who developed elaborate belief systems, ceremonial practices, and social institutions that rival anything found in recorded history. Archaeological evidence from cave sites across the world reveals that early humans used deep cave chambers as sacred spaces for religious ceremonies and artistic expression. These weren't random activities. They were systematic practices that required extensive planning, specialized knowledge, and community coordination. The cave paintings themselves tell an incredible story. At sites like Chauvet in Lascaux, artists created sophisticated compositions that demonstrate not just artistic skill, but deep understanding of animal behavior, symbolic thinking, and complex storytelling. The paintings often show animals in motion, with anatomical details so precise that modern wildlife biologists can determine the season when particular animals were painted based on their coat conditions. But creating these artworks required remarkable logistics. The deep chambers where many paintings are found required artificial light to work in. Early humans had to carry burning torches or oil lamps into dangerous, difficult terrain, often crawling through narrow passages to reach painting sites. They had to prepare pigments in advance, mixing ground minerals with animal fats and plant extracts to create paints that would adhere to rock surfaces. The pigment preparation alone was sophisticated chemistry. Early humans learned to create stable, vibrant colors using iron oxides for reds and yellows, manganese oxides for blacks and browns, and complex mixtures for other colors. Some sites show evidence of pigment workshops where large quantities of paint were prepared and stored for artistic projects. The artistic techniques employed were surprisingly advanced. Early humans understood principles of perspective, shading, and composition. They used the natural contours of cave walls to create three-dimensional effects, making painted animals appear to move in the flickering torchlight. Some paintings show evidence of preliminary sketching, compositional planning, and multiple layers of work. But the cave art was just one aspect of a much larger spiritual system. Archaeological evidence reveals that early humans practiced complex burial rituals that demonstrate belief in an afterlife and sophisticated concepts of personal identity. The famous burial at Shenandoah Cave in Iraq shows that a Neanderthal was buried with flowers, a practice that requires symbolic thinking and emotional complexity. The grave goods found at early human burial sites reveal elaborate belief systems about death and afterlife. Bodies were buried with tools, weapons, ornaments, and food, suggesting belief that the deceased would need these items in another realm. The consistency of burial practices across time and geographic regions indicates that these beliefs were part of systematic religious traditions. Musical instruments found at early human sites provide evidence for another crucial aspect of spiritual and social life. Bone flutes, percussion instruments, and other musical tools show that early humans developed sophisticated musical traditions. Music would have played crucial roles in religious ceremonies, social bonding, and cultural transmission. The social organization required for these spiritual practices was complex. Creating large cave paintings required coordinated effort from multiple people artists, assistants, torchbearers, and guards to watch for predators. Burial ceremonies required community participation and resource allocation. Musical performances required training, practice, and specialized knowledge. Evidence suggests that early human communities had specialized religious roles. Some individuals appear to have been designated as spiritual leaders, responsible for conducting ceremonies, maintaining sacred spaces, and preserving religious knowledge. The complexity and consistency of spiritual practices across different sites suggests formal training systems for religious specialists. The spiritual landscape of early humans extended far beyond caves. Archaeological evidence shows that they recognized and used sacred natural features like springs, unusual rock formations, and astronomical alignments. They created outdoor ceremonial spaces and developed pilgrimage routes connecting different sacred sites. The astronomical knowledge demonstrated by some early human sites is remarkable. Certain cave paintings appear to map star patterns and seasonal changes. Some burial sites are aligned with solar and lunar events. This suggests that early humans developed sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles and incorporated this knowledge into their spiritual practices. Personal ornamentation was another crucial aspect of early human social and spiritual expression. Archaeological sites reveal elaborate jewelry made from shells, teeth, bones, and stones. These ornaments weren't just decoration. They were complex symbolic systems that communicated social status, group membership, spiritual beliefs, and personal identity. The trade networks required to obtain materials for ornaments were extensive. Shells from coastal areas are found at inland sites hundreds of miles away. Exotic stones appear far from their natural sources. This indicates that early humans maintained long-distance social and economic relationships that connected communities across vast geographic regions. The symbolic thinking demonstrated by early human art and religious practices has profound implications for understanding their cognitive capabilities. Creating representational art requires abstract thinking, symbolic reasoning, and complex planning. Burial rituals require concepts of personal identity, continuity beyond death, and social obligation to community members. Language development was intimately connected to these spiritual and social practices. Complex ceremonies require detailed communication. Artistic instruction demands precise vocabulary, and religious traditions need mechanisms for preserving and transmitting knowledge across generations. The sophistication of early human spiritual practices suggests that they had developed complex language systems far earlier than previously thought. The therapeutic and psychological functions of early human spiritual practices were also sophisticated. Creating art, participating in ceremonies, and maintaining religious traditions would have provided crucial psychological support for individuals and communities facing the challenges of survival in dangerous environments. Community bonding through shared spiritual practices was essential for survival. The cooperation required for successful hunting, defense against predators, and resource sharing depended on strong social bonds. Religious ceremonies, artistic projects, and burial rituals created and reinforced these bonds, ensuring community cohesion during difficult times. The educational functions of spiritual practices were equally important. Cave paintings, ceremonial objects, and religious stories served as teaching tools, preserving and transmitting crucial survival knowledge across generations. Young people learned about animal behavior, seasonal patterns, and geographic features through participation in spiritual traditions. The environmental knowledge embedded in early human spiritual practices was extensive. Sacred sites were often chosen based on detailed understanding of ecological patterns, seasonal changes, and resource availability. Spiritual traditions preserved crucial information about weather patterns, animal migrations, and environmental cycles. The psychological sophistication required for these spiritual practices indicates that early humans had developed complex, emotional, and intellectual lives. They weren't just focused on immediate survival. They were concerned with meaning, purpose, identity, and transcendence. They had developed the capacity for wonder, curiosity, and creative expression that defines humanity. This rich spiritual and social life would prove crucial as early humans faced increasingly challenging environmental conditions and began to spread across the globe. carrying their cultural traditions with them into new and unknown territories. Chapter 6: The Language Revolution. In the gathering darkness of a cave mouth home 200,000 years ago, an extraordinary scene unfolds. A group of early humans sits around a carefully maintained fire, and for the first time in Earth's history, complex stories are being told. Not just simple warnings about predators or directions to water sources, but elaborate narratives about successful hunts, spiritual beliefs, and the accumulated wisdom of generations. The development of sophisticated language was perhaps the single most revolutionary breakthrough in human survival. The evidence for early language development is hidden in the archaeological record, but it's there if you know how to look for it. The complexity of early human technology, the sophistication of their social organization, and the intricacy of their spiritual practices all point to one inescapable conclusion. These people had developed rich, complex languages far earlier than scientists previously believed. Consider the logistics of creating the cave paintings at Lascaux or Chauvet. These artistic projects required detailed communication between multiple people over extended periods. Artists had to explain their vision to assistants, coordinate the preparation of pigments, direct the positioning of lighting, and provide instruction in artistic techniques. This level of coordination is impossible without sophisticated language. The evidence for complex language comes from multiple sources. The manufacturing of composite tools, spears with carefully shaped stone points hafted to wooden shafts with processed adhesives, requires passing down detailed technical knowledge. Young toolmakers had to learn not just basic techniques, but complex information about stone properties, wood selection, adhesive preparation, and assembly methods. The coordinated hunting strategies employed by early humans provide even stronger evidence for advanced language capabilities. Successfully hunting large animals in coordinated groups requires precise communication about animal behavior, terrain features, timing, and individual roles. Hunters needed vocabulary for describing complex tactical maneuvers, environmental conditions, and emergency procedures. But the most compelling evidence comes from the social and spiritual practices of early humans. The consistency of burial rituals across time and space suggests that complex religious concepts were being transmitted through verbal traditions. The preservation of artistic techniques across generations indicates that detailed technical knowledge was being passed down through formal teaching systems. Dr. Robin Dunbar's research on primate communication provides crucial insights into early human language development. His study shows that as group sizes increase, communication systems must become more sophisticated to maintain social cohesion. Early human communities were larger and more complex than any other primate societies, suggesting they had developed correspondingly advanced communication systems. The neurological evidence is equally compelling. Brain scans of early human skulls show development of the areas associated with language processing. The shape and size of the vocal tract, reconstructed from fossil evidence, indicates that early humans had the physical capacity for producing complex speech sounds. The hyoid bone, crucial for speech production, shows the anatomical changes necessary for advanced language. The development of sophisticated language had revolutionary implications for survival. Language allowed early humans to accumulate and transmit knowledge across generations in ways that no other species could match. Each generation could build on the discoveries of their predecessors, creating an ever-expanding knowledge base about survival techniques, environmental patterns, and technological innovations. Language also enabled the development of abstract thinking and complex problem-solving. With words to describe concepts like future, possibility, and strategy, early humans could plan far in advance, consider multiple scenarios, and develop contingency plans for various situations. This cognitive revolution transformed them from reactive survivors to proactive planners. The vocabulary development of early humans was remarkably sophisticated. Archaeological evidence suggests they had detailed terminology for different types of stone, various animal behaviors, seasonal patterns, weather phenomena, and social relationships. The precision required for successful toolmaking alone would have demanded hundreds of specific technical terms. Storytelling traditions became crucial mechanisms for preserving and transmitting survival knowledge. Stories about successful hunts preserved information about animal behavior and hunting techniques. Tales of dangerous situations taught young people about risk management and emergency procedures. Spiritual narratives embedded crucial environmental knowledge about seasonal changes, resource locations, and territorial boundaries. The development of teaching languages was equally important. Early humans created specialized vocabularies for instruction in different skills. Toolmaking instruction required precise terminology for describing techniques, materials, and quality standards. Hunting training demanded vocabulary for tactical concepts, animal behavior, and equipment usage. Artistic instruction needed terms for describing techniques, materials, and aesthetic concepts. The social functions of language were revolutionary. Complex communication allowed early humans to develop sophisticated social hierarchies, conflict resolution mechanisms, and resource allocation systems. They could negotiate agreements, make long-term plans, and coordinate activities across multiple groups and extended time periods. Language enabled the development of individual identity and personal relationships in ways that transformed human social life. People could express preferences, share experiences, and develop emotional bonds that went far beyond simple survival cooperation. The capacity for empathy, humor, and abstract emotional connection all depended on sophisticated language development. The geographical implications of advanced language were enormous. Early humans could share detailed information about distant territories, resource locations, and travel routes. This enabled them to plan long-distance migrations, establish trade relationships, and coordinate activities across vast geographic regions. The technological acceleration enabled by language was unprecedented. With the ability to precisely describe and teach technical innovations, early humans could rapidly spread new technologies across populations. A breakthrough in one community could be quickly transmitted to other groups, leading to rapid technological development. The preservation of cultural knowledge through language traditions was crucial for long-term survival. Early humans developed formal systems for training storytellers, maintaining oral histories, and ensuring that crucial survival information was preserved across generations. These knowledge preservation systems were the foundation for all future human civilization. The complexity of early human languages is evident in the sophistication of their social organization. The coordination required for large-scale hunting expeditions, the management of complex cave-mouth communities, and the maintenance of long-distance trade relationships all indicate that early humans had developed rich, nuanced communication systems. Modern linguistic research suggests that early human languages were likely as complex and sophisticated as any modern language. The human brain's capacity for language processing developed hundreds of thousands of years ago, and there is no reason to believe that early humans used this capacity any less fully than modern people do. The emotional and psychological impact of advanced language development cannot be underestimated. The ability to share experiences, express feelings, and create meaning through communication transformed early humans from isolated individuals into connected community members with rich inner lives and complex relationships. The educational implications of sophisticated language were profound. Complex verbal instruction allowed for the development of formal apprenticeship systems, detailed technical training programs, and comprehensive knowledge transfer mechanisms that ensured crucial survival skills were preserved and improved across generations. The ceremonial and religious uses of language created shared cultural experiences that bound communities together. Ritual chants, ceremonial speeches, and religious narratives created common identities and shared belief systems that strengthened social bonds and community cooperation. The conflict resolution capabilities enabled by advanced language were crucial for maintaining social stability. Early humans could negotiate disputes, mediate conflicts, and create agreements that prevented violence and maintained community harmony. The ability to discuss problems and find peaceful solutions was essential for group survival. This language revolution would prove essential as early humans faced their greatest challenge, adapting to rapidly changing environmental conditions as the world moved toward the Ice Age. The knowledge preservation and rapid communication, enabled by sophisticated language, would make the difference between extinction and survival. Chapter 7. Engineering the Perfect Home. The engineering genius of early humans becomes most apparent when we examine how they transformed simple rock shelters into sophisticated homes that provided comfort, safety, and functionality that rivals modern housing. These weren't crude camps thrown together for temporary use. They were carefully planned, systematically constructed homes designed to last for generations. At Aubry-Padot in France, archaeologists uncovered evidence of what can only be described as prehistoric apartment buildings. The rock shelter had been divided into multiple family units, each with its own hearth, storage areas, and specialized workspaces. The engineering required to create stable, functional living spaces for multiple families while maintaining structural integrity and safety was remarkable. The foundation systems developed by early humans were surprisingly sophisticated. Rather than simply building on bare rock or earth, they created multi-layer foundation systems designed to address specific environmental challenges. The bottom layer typically consisted of large stones carefully arranged to provide drainage and prevent moisture problems. This was covered with smaller stones and gravel for stability, topped with organic materials for insulation and comfort. Ventilation engineering was perhaps their greatest achievement. Cave-mouth homes faced a unique challenge. They needed to maintain fires for warmth and cooking while preventing deadly smoke accumulation. Early humans solved this problem by creating sophisticated air circulation systems that rival modern VSVS engineering. They understood the principles of thermodynamics, using the natural tendency of warm air to rise to create chimney effects that drew fresh air into living spaces while exhausting smoke and stale air. Archaeological evidence shows they created deliberate air channels, positioned hearths to maximize natural airflow, and even built primitive damper systems to control ventilation rates. The hearth engineering was incredibly sophisticated. These weren't simple fire pits. They were complex heating and cooking systems designed for maximum efficiency and safety. Early humans learned to line hearth areas with specific types of stone that could withstand repeated heating and cooling without cracking. They created ash pits for safe disposal of combustion waste and built heat-reflecting walls to maximize warmth distribution. Some hearths show evidence of multiple combustion chambers designed for different purposes: high-temperature fires for tool-making, low fires for cooking, and specialized chambers for smoking meat. The engineering precision required to create these systems while maintaining safety in confined spaces demonstrates remarkable technical understanding. Water management was another crucial engineering challenge. Cave-mouth homes needed reliable water supplies, but they also had to prevent flooding during heavy rains. Early humans created sophisticated drainage systems, including channels to direct water flow away from living areas, catch basins to collect rainwater for use, and even primitive guttering systems to control roof drainage. At some sites, archaeologists have found evidence of water storage systems, carefully constructed basins lined with clay or organic materials to create waterproof containers. These systems allowed communities to maintain water supplies during dry periods and provided backup resources for emergencies. The structural engineering principles employed were remarkably advanced. Early humans understood load distribution, creating support systems that could handle the weight of roof structures, stored materials, and multiple occupants. They used natural rock formations as structural elements while adding human-built supports where needed. The construction of walls and barriers shows sophisticated understanding of materials engineering. Early humans learned to select stones based on their structural properties, creating stable walls that have survived for hundreds of thousands of years. They developed mortar-like substances using clay, organic materials, and crushed stone to create strong, durable joints between stones. Roofing systems were equally impressive. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans extended natural rock overhangs using wooden frameworks, covered with animal hides, creating additional protected space. These roof systems had to be engineered to shed water, resist wind loads, and provide insulation while remaining light enough not to collapse the supporting structures. The interior space planning of these homes reveals sophisticated understanding of functional design. Different areas were designated for specific activities. Sleeping areas were positioned for maximum warmth and privacy. Work areas were located for optimal lighting and ventilation. Storage areas were placed for easy access while protecting materials from moisture and pests. Tool storage systems were engineered for both functionality and safety. Sharp tools needed to be stored securely to prevent accidents while remaining easily accessible for daily use. Archaeological sites show evidence of sophisticated tool storage systems, including specialized racks, protective containers, and organized toolkits for different activities. Food storage engineering was crucial for survival during harsh periods. Early humans created multiple types of storage systems designed for different types of food and preservation methods. They built cool storage areas for fresh food, dry storage for preserved items, and specialized containers for liquids and valuable resources. The insulation systems developed were remarkably effective. Early humans understood that preventing heat loss was just as important as generating heat. They created multi-layer insulation systems using animal hides, plant materials, and even air spaces to maintain comfortable temperatures with minimal fuel consumption. Security engineering was also sophisticated. These homes needed to provide protection against both animal predators and potentially hostile human groups. Early humans created multiple defensive features, including narrow, defensible entrances, escape routes through back passages, and observation points with commanding views of surrounding areas. The construction tools developed for building these homes were precision instruments. Early humans created specialized tools for cutting stone, shaping wood, moving heavy materials, and creating precise measurements. The consistency of construction techniques across multiple sites indicates that these tools and techniques were standardized and systematically taught. This engineering sophistication challenges our fundamental assumptions about early human capabilities. These weren't primitive people struggling to survive. They were skilled engineers creating sophisticated homes that provided comfort, safety, and functionality that many modern buildings cannot match. Chapter 8: Survival Technologies and Innovation. The technological sophistication of early humans extended far beyond simple stone tools and basic firemaking. Archaeological evidence reveals that our ancestors developed comprehensive survival technologies that enabled them to thrive in challenging environments and adapt to changing conditions with remarkable flexibility and innovation. The tool-making technologies developed by early humans were incredibly sophisticated. Rather than creating crude implements from whatever materials were available, they developed systematic approaches to tool manufacture that demonstrate deep understanding of material science, engineering principles, and quality control. The live woolen technique, developed over 300,000 years ago, represents one of the greatest technological breakthroughs in human history. This method allowed toolmakers to predictably create sharp, standardized flakes from carefully prepared stone cores. The technique required understanding complex three-dimensional relationships, precise motor control, and extensive planning. Master toolmakers, using the Lavallois technique, could visualize the final tool shape before beginning work and execute a precise sequence of strikes to achieve the desired result. This level of technological sophistication rivals modern manufacturing processes in its precision and repeatability. Composite tool technology represented another revolutionary breakthrough. Early humans learned to combine different materials, stone, wood, bone, and processed adhesives to create tools that were superior to anything made from single materials. These composite tools required understanding material properties, interface engineering, and assembly techniques. The adhesives used in composite tools were technological marvels in their own right. Early humans developed multiple types of glues and bindings using tree resins, animal products, and plant fibers. Some adhesives were designed for permanent bonds, others for temporary assembly that could be easily disassembled for repair or modification. Hafting techniques for attaching stone points to wooden handles were remarkably sophisticated. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans developed multiple methods for creating secure, durable connections between dissimilar materials. They understood stress distribution, failure modes, and repair techniques that kept tools functional under demanding conditions. The specialization of tools for different tasks was extensive. Rather than using general-purpose implements for everything, early humans created specialized toolkits optimized for specific activities. Hunting tools were different from butchering tools, which were different from hide processing tools, which were different from plant processing implements. Cutting tool technology was particularly advanced. Early humans could create stone blades sharper than modern surgical steel, with cutting edges that could slice through hide, meat, and plant materials with minimal effort. The precision manufacturing required to create these tools consistently demonstrates remarkable technical skill. Projectile technology represented a major breakthrough in hunting effectiveness and personal safety. The development of spears, atlatls, and eventually bows and arrows allowed early humans to kill dangerous prey from safe distances and engage multiple targets quickly and effectively. The engineering of projectile points was sophisticated. Different point designs were optimized for different types of prey and hunting conditions. Some points were designed for maximum penetration, others for causing rapid blood loss, still others for easy removal and reuse. Food processing technologies were equally advanced. Early humans developed comprehensive systems for obtaining maximum nutrition from available food sources. They created tools for cracking nuts, processing plant fibers, extracting marrow from bones, and preparing various types of plant and animal foods. Cooking technologies went far beyond simply roasting meat over open flames. Early humans developed multiple cooking methods, including roasting, boiling using heated stones, steaming in earth ovens, and smoking for preservation. Each method required specialized tools and techniques. Preservation technologies were crucial for surviving periods when fresh food was scarce. Early humans developed methods for drying meat, smoking fish, fermenting plant materials, and storing various foods for extended periods. These preservation techniques required understanding bacterial processes, moisture control, and storage container technology. Clothing and textile technologies were remarkably sophisticated. Early humans learned to process animal hides into leather, create waterproof materials, and manufacture clothing optimized for different environmental conditions. The development of bone needles around 40,000 years ago revolutionized clothing construction, allowing for fitted garments that provided superior protection and comfort. Hide processing required extensive technological knowledge. Early humans had to understand animal anatomy, chemical processes for removing hair and preserving leather, and techniques for creating materials with different properties for different uses. Container technology was essential for storing and transporting various materials. Early humans created containers from animal hides, plant fibers, hollowed wood, and even sewn leather. These containers had to be designed for specific purposes: water storage, food transport, tool carrying, and material processing. Rope and cordage technology was crucial for many survival activities. Early humans learned to process plant fibers and animal sinews into strong, flexible ropes and strings. These materials were used for tool construction, shelter building, trap making, and countless other applications. Fire-making technology evolved from simple friction methods to sophisticated systems that could create flames quickly and reliably under various conditions. Early humans developed multiple fire-starting techniques and created portable, fire-making kits that allowed them to create fire anywhere. Lighting technology using animal fat, lamps, and torches allowed early humans to extend their active hours and explore deep cave systems. These lighting systems required understanding fuel properties, wick materials, and safety considerations for use in confined spaces. The innovation process itself was sophisticated. Early humans didn't just stumble upon better technologies. They systematically experimented with new materials, techniques, and designs. Archaeological sites show evidence of experimental tools, failed prototypes, and gradual refinements of successful designs. Knowledge transfer systems ensured that technological innovation spread quickly through populations. Early humans developed formal training programs for teaching technical skills, standardized techniques that could be reliably transmitted across generations, and quality control systems that maintained high standards. This technological sophistication enabled early humans to adapt to changing environmental conditions and expand into new territories. As climate conditions became more challenging and resources became scarcer, their comprehensive survival technologies provided the flexibility and capability needed to not just survive, but continue to thrive and innovate. Chapter 9. Climate Mastery. As global temperatures began their inexorable decline toward the Ice Age, early humans faced environmental challenges that would have destroyed lesser species. But rather than succumbing to climate change, they demonstrated remarkable adaptability and developed sophisticated strategies for mastering environmental challenges that showcase intelligence and planning capabilities that rival modern climate adaptation efforts. The climate patterns that early humans had to navigate were incredibly complex and dangerous. Global temperatures fluctuated dramatically over relatively short periods, creating environmental conditions that could shift from temperate to near Arctic within a few generations. These weren't gradual changes that allowed for slow adaptation. They were rapid, dramatic shifts that demanded immediate, effective responses. Archaeological evidence from sites across Europe and Asia shows that early humans not only survived these climate challenges, they actually expanded their geographic range during some of the most difficult periods. This expansion wasn't random migration, it was systematic colonization based on sophisticated understanding of environmental patterns and resource management. The clothing technologies developed by early humans were crucial for climate adaptation. Around 30,000 years ago, they invented the needle, which archaeologist Brian Fagan argues is the most important invention in human history. This simple tool revolutionized clothing construction, enabling the creation of fitted, layered garments that provided unprecedented protection against cold weather. Early human clothing systems were remarkably sophisticated. Rather than simply wrapping themselves in animal hides, they developed comprehensive clothing technologies that included base layers for insulation, outer layers for weather protection, specialized footwear for different terrain and weather conditions, and even primitive waterproof materials for wet environments. The tailoring techniques employed show deep understanding of human anatomy and thermal regulation. Early humans learned to create fitted garments that trapped warm air while allowing moisture to escape, preventing the deadly combination of sweating and freezing that can kill even well-equipped modern outdoors people. Shelter technologies evolved to meet changing climate conditions. As temperatures dropped, early humans moved from simple cave-mouth homes to sophisticated structures that could maintain comfortable interior temperatures even during extreme cold. Archaeological evidence shows that Ice Age humans made extensive modifications to weatherproof their rock shelters, draping large hides from overhangs to protect against piercing winds and building internal tent-like structures made of wooden poles covered with sawn hides. The seasonal adaptation strategies developed were comprehensive and sophisticated. Early humans learned to time their activities to take advantage of optimal environmental conditions while preparing for challenging periods. They developed storage systems for preserving resources during abundant periods for use during scarcity. Migration timing was precisely calibrated to environmental patterns. Rather than moving randomly in search of better conditions, early humans developed systematic migration strategies based on detailed knowledge of seasonal patterns, resource availability, and weather cycles. The resource management strategies employed during climate stress were remarkably advanced. Early humans learned to identify and exploit resources that remained available during harsh conditions, develop backup food sources for emergencies, and create resource-sharing networks that could support communities during difficult periods. Fuel management became increasingly important as climates became colder and fuel sources became scarcer. Early humans developed sophisticated understanding of different wood types and their burning properties, fuel conservation techniques that maximized heat output while minimizing consumption, and fuel gathering strategies that ensured sustainable supplies. Archaeological evidence from Middle Paleolithic sites reveals that Neanderthals frequently used fire during warmer periods, but this evidence declined significantly during colder periods, suggesting they adapted their fire management strategies to available resources and environmental conditions. Food storage and preservation technologies became crucial for surviving longer, harsher winters. Early humans developed multiple preservation methods optimized for different types of food and storage conditions. They created sophisticated storage facilities that could maintain food quality for extended periods while protecting against spoilage and theft. The hunting strategies adapted to climate change show remarkable flexibility and innovation. As animal populations shifted in response to changing conditions, early humans modified their hunting techniques, developed new weapons and tactics for different prey species, and created hunting schedules that matched changing animal behavior patterns. During the Ice Age, they learned to hunt megafauna such as woolly mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, and woolly rhinoceroses, as well as adapt to hunting reindeer, musk oxen, bison, and early horses that thrived in cold climates and vast grasslands. Plant resource management evolved to take advantage of changing vegetation patterns. Early humans learned to identify and exploit plant resources that thrived in different climate conditions, develop processing techniques for previously marginal food sources, and create systems for managing wild plant populations to ensure sustainable harvests. Water resource management became increasingly complex as climate patterns changed. Early humans had to adapt to changing precipitation patterns, seasonal water availability, and new challenges like frozen water sources. They developed sophisticated water storage and conservation techniques. The social organization adaptations were equally important. Climate stress required enhanced cooperation and resource sharing. Early humans developed social systems that could maintain community cohesion during difficult periods, coordinate large-scale activities like migrations and resource gathering, and manage conflict over scarce resources. Communication systems adapted to support climate survival strategies. Early humans developed specialized vocabulary for describing weather patterns, environmental conditions, and survival techniques. They created information-sharing networks that could rapidly transmit crucial survival information across large geographic areas. Risk management strategies became increasingly sophisticated as environmental challenges intensified. Early humans developed comprehensive planning systems for managing climate-related risks, backup strategies for failed primary plans, and emergency procedures for dealing with extreme weather events. The technological innovations driven by climate adaptation were remarkable. Many of the most important early human technologies were developed in response to environmental challenges. Climate stress drove innovation in toolmaking, shelter construction, clothing manufacture, and food processing. Predictive capabilities developed by early humans were surprisingly advanced. They learned to read environmental signs that predicted weather changes, seasonal patterns, and resource availability. This predictive knowledge allowed them to prepare for challenges before they became critical. The geographic knowledge accumulated by early humans was extensive and detailed. They developed comprehensive understanding of regional climate patterns, resource distributions, migration routes, and seasonal changes across vast geographic areas. Cooperative networks between different groups became essential for climate survival. Early humans established trade relationships, information sharing agreements, and mutual aid systems that could provide support during environmental crises. The psychological adaptations required for surviving climate stress were equally important. Early humans had to maintain morale and social cohesion during extended periods of hardship, develop resilient strategies for coping with uncertainty and danger, and create cultural systems that provided meaning and purpose during difficult times. Environmental monitoring capabilities were sophisticated. Early humans developed systematic methods for tracking environmental changes, predicting seasonal patterns, and identifying optimal timing for various activities based on environmental conditions. The biological and cultural adaptations that emerged during this period demonstrate the remarkable plasticity of human response to environmental pressure. Unlike their hominin relatives who couldn't adapt to the dramatic climate fluctuations, early humans developed unprecedented flexibility in their survival strategies. They created redundant systems for every critical survival need, ensuring that the failure of one approach wouldn't lead to catastrophic consequences. Their ability to rapidly switch between different survival strategies, modify existing technologies for new conditions, and integrate diverse knowledge sources enabled them to thrive where other species merely survived or went extinct. The long-term planning capabilities they developed during climate adaptation periods represent one of humanity's most significant cognitive achievements. Early humans learned to think beyond immediate needs and prepare for seasonal cycles, multi-year environmental patterns, and even generational challenges. This forward-thinking approach required abstract reasoning, memory integration, and predictive modeling that rivals modern climate science in its practical effectiveness. They developed sophisticated mental models of environmental systems that enabled accurate prediction of resource availability, weather patterns, and optimal timing for various survival activities across multiple temporal scales. The innovation acceleration that occurred during periods of climate stress demonstrates how environmental pressure can drive rapid technological and social development. Rather than simply struggling to maintain existing capabilities, early humans used climate challenges as catalysts for breakthrough innovations that dramatically improved their survival capabilities. The technologies they developed during these challenging periods often proved superior to previous solutions, even when environmental conditions improved, creating permanent advances in human capability that accumulated over time to produce exponential increases in survival effectiveness. The flexibility and adaptability demonstrated by early humans during climate stress periods set the foundation for all future human expansion and colonization. The technologies, social systems, and adaptive strategies they developed enabled humans to survive and thrive in virtually any environment on Earth. This climate mastery would prove essential as environmental conditions continued to deteriorate and early humans faced the ultimate test of their survival capabilities during the depths of the Ice Age. Chapter 10. The Network Society. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of early human survival was their ability to create and maintain vast social networks that connected communities across hundreds of miles. These weren't isolated groups struggling alone against the elements. They were sophisticated societies with trade relationships, information-sharing systems, and cooperative agreements that enabled survival on a scale previously unimaginable. Archaeological evidence from sites across Europe, Africa, and Asia reveals that early humans maintained regular contact across enormous distances. Materials found at archaeological sites often originated hundreds of miles away, indicating extensive trade networks and social connections that spanned entire continents. Recent discoveries have pushed back the timeline for these sophisticated networks significantly, with evidence showing that humans took part in long-distance trade between bands for rare commodities as early as 120,000 years ago in the Middle Paleolithic. The Olorgesailie Basin site provides particularly compelling evidence of early trade networks. Smithsonian researchers found evidence of long-distance trade, the use of color pigments, and sophisticated tools, all dating back tens of thousands of years before previously believed. This site demonstrates that complex social networks existed much earlier than traditional archaeological models suggested. Recent research using advanced analytical techniques has revealed the sophisticated nature of these ancient networks. Maintaining social cohesion was crucial for early humans because social networks provided the foundation for survival, resource sharing, and cultural development. Studies of obsidian distribution patterns show that social behavior is notoriously difficult to study archaeologically, and it is unclear how large the networks of prehistoric humans were, or how they remained connected. But the evidence suggests these networks were far more extensive and organized than previously understood. Archaeological investigations across different regions show remarkable consistency in network organization. The most convincing evidence for this is the mutual similarity of the oldest tools for work, found in France, Africa, China, Armenia, etc., which also explains the unity of the man origin and human society. This technological standardization across vast distances indicates coordinated knowledge sharing and cultural exchange systems. The logistics of maintaining these long-distance relationships were extraordinarily complex. Early humans had to develop reliable communication systems, establish trusted intermediaries for trade relationships, create standardized exchange rates for different materials and services, and maintain diplomatic protocols for interactions between different groups. The trade networks established by early humans were remarkably sophisticated. Rather than simple barter systems, they developed complex economic relationships that involved multiple types of exchanges, credit systems that allowed for delayed payments, and quality standards that ensured consistent value across different trading partners. The materials traded reveal the extensive geographic scope of these networks. Obsidian is a hard, dark-colored volcanic glass capable of being made into sharp-edged tools. Obsidian from 4 Mediterranean island sources was shipped all over the central Mediterranean region in the most extensive long-distance trade network of its time. Similarly, seashells from coastal areas are found at inland sites hundreds of miles away. Amber from northern forests reaches southern archaeological sites, and specialized pigments traveled across continents. Evidence from the Upper Paleolithic shows even more sophisticated trade relationships. This evidence suggests that initial Upper Paleolithic populations had developed social networks or moved over long distances, using the Upper Paleolithic Selenga corridor in both cases. The discovery of mica at sites in northern Mongolia, transported from distant sources, demonstrates that these networks span the entirety of Eurasia. The social organization required for maintaining these networks was incredibly complex. Early humans had to develop diplomatic systems for negotiating with other groups, conflict resolution mechanisms for managing disputes, and social protocols for hosting visitors and managing intergroup relationships. Recent studies of hunter-gatherer societies provide insights into how these ancient networks functioned. Social networks show striking structural regularities, and both theory and evidence suggest that networks may have facilitated the development of large-scale cooperation in humans. Research on the Hadza people of Tanzania demonstrates that hunter-gatherer networks maintain specific structural properties that optimize both cooperation and resource sharing. Social connectivity, through time, is currently considered as one of the major drivers of cultural transmission and cultural evolution. Within this framework, the interactions within and between groups are impacted by individuals' distinction of community members versus outsiders, creating sophisticated systems for managing relationships with different categories of people. The archaeological evidence suggests these ancient societies developed complex protocols for intergroup interactions. Standardized artifact styles across vast regions indicate shared cultural norms and communication systems. Sites with evidence of large gatherings show sophisticated planning and coordination capabilities that required advanced communication and resource management. Information sharing was perhaps the most crucial aspect of these networks. Early humans used their social connections to share vital survival information, including weather patterns and seasonal changes, resource availability and depletion, technological innovations and improvements, and threats from predators or hostile groups. The preservation and transmission of information across these networks required sophisticated systems. Early humans developed standardized storytelling traditions that could reliably transmit complex information, specialized messenger systems for carrying urgent communications, and formal protocols for verifying and validating shared information. Archaeological evidence shows remarkable consistency in cultural practices across vast distances, indicating efficient information transmission systems. Cave art motifs, burial practices, and tool manufacturing techniques show regional variations that gradually transition across distances, suggesting information flowed along established network pathways rather than spreading randomly. The technological standardization observed in archaeological sites demonstrates sophisticated quality control and knowledge-sharing systems. Advances in the development of tools during the Lower and Middle Paleolithic were transmitted across networks, enabling rapid adoption of innovations and continuous technological improvement. Recent research using big data for mapping early human cultural networks has revealed the sophisticated nature of information flow in prehistoric societies. Analysis of artifact distributions and stylistic variations shows that information moved along predictable pathways, with certain sites functioning as major nodes or hubs in the communication network. Marriage and kinship networks were crucial for maintaining long-distance social connections. Early humans used intermarriage between groups to create lasting alliances, exchange individuals to maintain genetic diversity, and establish family connections that could provide support during emergencies. The genetic evidence from ancient human populations shows clear patterns of long-distance gene flow that could only have resulted from systematic marriage exchanges between distant groups. This genetic mixing required sophisticated social protocols for managing relationships between groups and ensuring that marriages created beneficial alliances rather than conflicts. Archaeological evidence of burial practices provides insights into kinship networks. Grave goods found at distant sites from their origins suggest individuals maintain connections to multiple communities throughout their lives. The presence of foreign materials in burials indicates that people maintained relationships with their origin communities even after marriage into distant groups. The sophistication of these marriage networks is evident in the genetic diversity maintained by ancient populations, Despite small group sizes, ancient humans avoided the genetic bottlenecks that would be expected from isolated communities, indicating systematic management of breeding patterns across extended networks. The technological innovation sharing through these networks was remarkable. New tool designs, manufacturing techniques, and survival strategies could spread across vast geographic areas within relatively short periods. This rapid technology transfer gave connected groups significant survival advantages over isolated communities. Archaeological evidence shows that technological innovations followed specific diffusion patterns that correspond to known trade, routes, and social connections. The timing and distribution of new technologies indicate that information traveled along established pathways, with innovations appearing first at major network nodes before spreading to peripheral areas. The standardization of manufacturing techniques across vast regions required sophisticated training and quality control systems. Archaeological analysis reveals that toolmakers in different regions followed virtually identical production sequences, indicating detailed knowledge sharing and possibly direct training exchanges between communities. Recent studies of tool traditions show that technological knowledge was preserved and transmitted with remarkable accuracy across generations and geographic distances. The consistency of manufacturing techniques over thousands of years and hundreds of miles indicates sophisticated educational systems and cultural preservation mechanisms. Seasonal gathering systems brought multiple groups together for economic, social, and cultural exchanges. These gatherings served multiple purposes, including large-scale trade fairs, information sharing sessions, marriage negotiations, and cultural celebrations that reinforced social bonds. Archaeological evidence of these seasonal gatherings comes from sites that show temporary occupation by much larger populations than the local carrying capacity would support. These sites contain artifacts from numerous distant sources, indicating they served as major convergence points for network activities. The logistics of organizing these gatherings required sophisticated coordination and communication systems. Groups had to synchronize their movements across vast distances, coordinate resource contributions, and manage complex social interactions among potentially thousands of individuals from different communities. These seasonal gatherings appear to have served as crucial nodes for cultural transmission and innovation. Sites associated with large gatherings show evidence of rapid technological change and cultural innovation, suggesting that these meetings functioned as centers for knowledge exchange and cultural development. The territorial management systems developed were sophisticated and stable. Rather than constant warfare over resources, early humans developed complex agreements about territorial boundaries, resource-sharing arrangements, and seasonal access rights that minimize conflict while maximizing resource utilization. Archaeological evidence suggests these territorial systems were maintained over extremely long periods. Site occupation patterns show consistent use of specific areas for particular activities over thousands of years, indicating stable agreements about resource access and territorial boundaries. The resource-sharing agreements enable groups to specialize in exploiting particular resources while maintaining access to necessary materials from other regions. This specialization created efficiency gains that benefited all network participants and provided incentives for maintaining cooperative relationships. Evidence of shared resource exploitation sites shows sophisticated coordination systems. Multiple groups appear to have used the same quarries, hunting grounds, and gathering areas according to systematic schedules that prevented conflicts and optimized resource utilization. Communication technology supported these extensive networks. Early humans developed long-distance signaling systems using smoke, fire, and sound, standardized symbolic systems for marking territories and trails, and message-carrying protocols that could transmit information across multiple groups. Archaeological evidence of signaling systems, include strategically placed fire hearths on high points that could communicate across vast distances. These communication networks appear to have been capable of transmitting simple messages across hundreds of miles within days. The development of symbolic communication systems is evident in the standardized marking systems found across regions. Trail markers, territorial boundaries, and resource indicators show consistent symbolic conventions across vast areas, indicating sophisticated communication protocols. Recent analysis of cave art distributions suggests that artistic traditions may have functioned as communication systems, with specific motifs and styles conveying information about group identity, territorial claims, and resource availability to network participants. The trust systems required for these networks were remarkably advanced. Long-distance trade and cooperation required sophisticated mechanisms for establishing credibility, maintaining reputation across multiple groups, and enforcing agreements without central authority. Archaeological evidence suggests these trust systems were based on material culture standardization and quality control. The consistency of artifact quality across regions indicates systematic reputation management that maintains standards across network participants. The development of distinctive group signatures in material culture allowed network participants to identify the origin and quality of traded goods. These signatures functioned as prehistoric brands that conveyed information about reliability and quality across the network. Evidence of conflict resolution systems comes from archaeological sites that show evidence of formal dispute resolution procedures. Specific artifact distributions and site organization patterns suggest institutionalized mechanisms for managing conflicts and maintaining network stability. The risk management provided by these networks was crucial for survival. Groups that faced local resource shortages, environmental disasters, or other crises could receive support from network partners. This mutual aid system provided insurance against local catastrophes that could otherwise have caused group extinction. Archaeological evidence of these mutual aid systems comes from sites that show sudden influxes of foreign materials during periods of local resource scarcity. These patterns indicate systematic support mechanisms that activated during crisis situations. The sophistication of risk assessment and communication systems enabled rapid response to threats. Archaeological evidence suggested warnings about resource depletion, environmental changes, and other threats could be transmitted across networks within weeks, enabling preventive responses. The development of resource storage and redistribution systems enabled networks to buffer against localized shortages. Archaeological evidence shows sophisticated storage facilities and distribution mechanisms that could support crisis response across vast regions. The economic benefits of these networks were enormous. Participating groups had access to resources and materials not available locally, could specialize in producing particular goods for trade, and could achieve economies of scale impossible for isolated communities. Archaeological evidence shows clear patterns of economic specialization across network regions. Certain areas focused on specific types of tool production, others specialized in processing particular resources, and some served as trade nodes connecting different regional networks. Resource optimization through network cooperation was remarkably efficient. Groups could specialize in exploiting particular resources while trading for other necessities, coordinate hunting and gathering activities to minimize competition, and share information about resource availability and seasonal patterns. The development of standardized exchange rates and value systems enabled efficient trade across vast distances. Archaeological evidence suggests sophisticated economic systems that could handle complex multi-party transactions and delayed payments. The technological acceleration enabled by these networks was unprecedented. Innovation and improvement happened much faster when ideas and techniques could be rapidly shared across multiple communities. The network effect multiplied the technological capabilities of all participating groups, Archaeological evidence shows that the rate of technological change accelerated dramatically once extensive networks were established. Innovations that previously took thousands of years to spread across regions could now diffuse within decades or centuries. The cumulative effect of network-enabled innovation created exponential increases in technological capability. Each innovation built upon previous developments, and the rapid sharing of knowledge enabled continuous improvement and refinement of technologies. Research using social network analysis, SNA, and prehistoric societies demonstrates that patterns of cultural variability would express the changing network structures over time, with innovation rates correlating directly with network connectivity and information flow rates. Emergency response systems through these networks provided crucial safety nets. Groups facing immediate threats could rapidly communicate warnings to network partners, request emergency assistance during crises, and coordinate large-scale responses to regional threats. Archaeological evidence of coordinated responses to environmental threats shows sophisticated crisis management capabilities. Synchronous changes in settlement patterns across vast regions indicate network-coordinated responses to climate change and other environmental challenges. The development of early warning systems enabled proactive responses to threats. Archaeological evidence suggests that information about approaching environmental changes could be transmitted across networks, enabling coordinated adaptation strategies. The coordination of defensive responses to external threats required sophisticated military organization and communication systems. Archaeological evidence shows coordinated defensive preparations across regions, indicating network-level strategic planning capabilities. Migration support through these networks enabled successful colonization of new territories. Groups moving into unknown areas could receive information about routes and resources, establish relationships with groups along migration paths, and maintain connections with origin communities. Archaeological evidence of migration support systems shows coordinated expansion into new territories. The rapid spread of human populations across continents required sophisticated logistical support and coordination that could only have been provided by extensive social networks. The maintenance of connections between origin and destination communities created migration corridors that facilitated continued exchange and support. Archaeological evidence shows continuous material and cultural exchange along major migration routes over thousands of years. The successful colonization of challenging environments required extensive network support for resource identification, route planning, and emergency assistance. Archaeological evidence shows that even the most remote human settlements maintained connections to broader network systems. The information processing capabilities of these networks were sophisticated. Early humans developed systems for collecting, verifying, analyzing, and distributing information across multiple communities, creating knowledge bases that no single group could maintain independently. Archaeological evidence suggests sophisticated information management systems that could handle complex data about resources, routes, weather patterns, and social relationships. The consistency of information across vast regions indicates systematic verification and quality control procedures. The development of specialized knowledge repositories enabled the preservation and transmission of complex information. Certain sites appear to have functioned as information centers where specialists maintained detailed knowledge about specific topics. The integration of information from multiple sources enabled sophisticated analysis and prediction capabilities. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient humans could predict environmental changes, resource availability, and other complex patterns by integrating information from across their networks. Cultural preservation through these networks ensured that valuable knowledge and traditions weren't lost. Important survival information, technological innovations, and cultural practices were preserved across multiple communities, providing redundancy that protected against local losses. The balance between cultural preservation and innovation required sophisticated management systems. Networks had to maintain enough consistency to enable communication and cooperation, while allowing enough variation to promote innovation and adaptation. Archaeological evidence shows that cultural identity was maintained through distinctive regional variations in material culture, while shared underlying principles enabled network cooperation. This balance created robust systems that combined stability with adaptability. The transmission of cultural knowledge across generations required sophisticated educational systems that operated at network levels. Archaeological evidence suggests formal training programs that could maintain consistency across vast distances and long time periods. These extensive social networks would prove crucial as early humans faced their greatest challenge, the onset of the Ice Age, and the need to coordinate survival efforts across vast geographic regions under increasingly difficult environmental conditions. The network systems developed by early humans provided the foundation for all subsequent human civilization. The principles of long-distance cooperation, information sharing, and resource coordination established by these ancient societies continue to influence human social organization today. The success of these early networks demonstrates the fundamental importance of social cooperation in human survival and development. The sophisticated systems they developed enabled not just survival, but thriving in challenging environments through collective intelligence and coordinated action. The archaeological record continues to reveal new evidence of the sophistication and extent of these ancient networks. Each new discovery reinforces our understanding of early humans as sophisticated social innovators whose achievements laid the foundation for all subsequent human civilization. Modern network theory and social science research increasingly recognize the remarkable sophistication of these ancient systems. The principles they established for managing large-scale cooperation without centralized authority remain relevant for contemporary challenges in global coordination and resource management. The story of early human social networks is ultimately the story of how cooperation and communication enabled our species to transcend the limitations of individual capability and create collective achievements that transform the world. Their legacy lives on in every human institution, every technological achievement, and every example of successful large-scale cooperation that defines modern civilization. Chapter 11. The Legacy of Innovation. As we reach the end of our journey through the remarkable world of early human cave survival, the true magnitude of their achievements becomes clear. These weren't primitive ancestors stumbling through a harsh world. They were sophisticated innovators whose discoveries and developments laid the foundation for everything that would follow in human civilization. Recent archaeological discoveries have revolutionized our understanding of early human cave dwelling. Archaeological evidence suggests human ancestors may have begun inhabiting caves as early as 300,000 years ago, with some Homo sapiens living in cave systems in South Africa such as Pinnacle Point and Deep Kloof rock shelters starting about 170,000 years ago. The stable temperatures of caves provided a cool habitat in summers and a warm, dry shelter in the winter. The archaeological record from sites like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa provides remarkable insights into early human sophistication. Findings from Wonderwork provide the earliest evidence for controlled use of fire, with intact sediments analyzed using micromorphological analysis. This evidence dates back approximately 1 million years, demonstrating that our ancestors mastered fire control far earlier than previously thought. The mastery of fire represents perhaps the most crucial survival innovation of early cave dwellers. Our human ancestors' big, creative brains helped them devise tools and strategies to survive harsh climates, with fire control being central to their success. But their approach to fire management was far more sophisticated than simple flame creation. Early humans had to start their fires in locations where ventilation was good, and the smoke would disperse as rapidly and efficiently as possible, striking the perfect balance in situating their hearths while preserving ample sitting and cooking space while avoiding the worst effects of smoke. This required deep understanding of cave aerodynamics, air circulation patterns, and thermal dynamics. Fire provided light, warmth, and protection from predators, as well as a way to heat adhesive materials for hafting tools. Fire could also be used to clean out dwelling spaces, clear pathways, and exterminate pests. The social implications were equally important, as ethnographic studies have revealed that the hearth functions as a social magnet that increases the hours of group activity and contributes to group solidarity. Early humans developed sophisticated hearth construction techniques that maximized efficiency while minimizing health risks. They learned to construct fire-resistant platforms using carefully selected stones, create draft systems that controlled airflow, and position hearths to optimize heat distribution throughout their cave homes. These innovations required understanding of material science, engineering principles, and environmental dynamics that rivals modern knowledge. The fuel management systems they developed were equally sophisticated. They learned to identify the best burning materials for different purposes: hardwoods for long-lasting heat, softwoods for quick ignition, specific plants for pest control, and aromatic woods for ceremonial purposes. They developed techniques for processing, storing, and seasoning fuel materials that ensured reliable fire maintenance even during harsh weather conditions. Contrary to the popular image of Ice Age humans living in deep caves, our ancestors were more likely to have built sturdy rock shelters that made use of natural features, such as depression in a cliff face. This reveals a sophisticated understanding of architectural principles that went far beyond simple shelter seeking. The construction techniques they developed represent the foundation of all human architecture. They learned to assess structural stability, identify load-bearing points, and create modifications that enhanced natural cave features without compromising structural integrity. These skills required understanding of geology, physics, and engineering that demonstrates remarkable cognitive sophistication. Their approach to space planning was equally advanced. They developed techniques for dividing cave spaces into functional areas, sleeping quarters, food preparation zones, tool manufacturing areas, storage spaces, and social gathering places. This spatial organization required understanding of human behavior, workflow optimization, and environmental management that parallels modern architectural planning. The ventilation systems they created were engineering marvels. They learned to modify cave entrances to control airflow, create smoke outlets that didn't compromise security, and establish air circulation patterns that maintained healthy indoor environments. These innovations required sophisticated understanding of fluid dynamics, pressure differentials, and atmospheric science. The waterproofing and insulation techniques they developed enabled comfortable living even during harsh weather conditions. They learned to seal cave openings with combinations of mud, plant materials, and animal hides, create drainage systems that prevented water accumulation, and develop insulation techniques that maintained stable temperatures. These skills required knowledge of material science, hydrology, and thermal dynamics. The technological legacy of early humans is staggering in its scope and sophistication. Every major technology that defines human civilization has its roots in innovations developed by our cave-dwelling ancestors. Fire control, tool manufacturing, construction techniques, textile production, food processing, transportation, communication systems, and social organization all trace their origins to the remarkable innovations of early humans. Archaeological evidence shows distinct technological evolution, with Middle Stone Age toolkits dating back around 78,000 years, and a distinct change occurring 67,000 years ago in the later Stone Age, where toolkits become much smaller, showing a switch in technologies. This technological evolution demonstrates continuous innovation and adaptation over tens of thousands of years. The precision manufacturing techniques they developed for stone tool production established principles of standardization, quality control, and systematic improvement that remain relevant today. They learned to select optimal raw materials, develop consistent production processes, and create tools that met specific performance requirements. These innovations required understanding of materials properties, mechanical engineering, and production optimization. The hafting technologies they perfected, techniques for attaching stone points to wooden handles, represented sophisticated understanding of adhesives, mechanical advantage, and stress distribution. They developed complex binding systems using plant fibers, animal sinews, and natural adhesives that created tools capable of withstanding extreme use conditions. The composite tool technologies they invented, combining multiple materials to create superior implements, demonstrated advanced engineering thinking. They learned to optimize different materials for specific functions, create joints that distributed stress effectively, and design tools that could be repaired and modified as needed. The social innovations developed by cave-dwelling humans were equally profound and far-reaching. The cooperative networks, trade systems, communication protocols, and diplomatic mechanisms they created became the foundation for all human societies. The techniques they developed for managing large groups, resolving conflicts, and maintaining social cohesion across vast geographic areas set the patterns that would be followed by every human civilization. Their understanding of group dynamics was remarkably sophisticated. They developed leadership selection processes, conflict resolution mechanisms, resource allocation systems, and decision-making protocols that enabled large groups to function effectively. These innovations required deep understanding of human psychology, social dynamics, and organizational behavior. The trade networks they established spanned vast distances and involved complex economic relationships. Archaeological evidence shows that materials and finished goods traveled hundreds of miles between different groups, indicating sophisticated understanding of value, exchange, and economic cooperation. These early trade systems required development of trust mechanisms, quality standards, and dispute resolution procedures. The communication systems they developed enabled coordination across time and space. They created symbolic languages, information storage systems, and knowledge transmission protocols that allowed accumulated knowledge to be preserved and shared. These innovations laid the foundation for all human culture and learning. The educational systems they established for training young people were remarkably comprehensive. They developed structured learning progressions, practical training methods, and knowledge assessment systems that ensured essential skills were transmitted to each generation. These educational innovations required understanding of cognitive development, learning psychology, and knowledge organization. The scientific knowledge accumulated by early cave dwellers was remarkably comprehensive and sophisticated. Their understanding of material science, engineering principles, environmental patterns, animal behavior, plant properties, and countless other fields of knowledge provided the knowledge base that future civilizations would build upon. Their meteorological knowledge enabled accurate weather prediction and seasonal planning. They learned to read atmospheric conditions, predict weather changes, and plan activities around environmental patterns. This knowledge was essential for survival and enabled sophisticated resource management and activity coordination. The botanical knowledge they accumulated was encyclopedic in scope. They identified thousands of plant species and understood their properties, uses, and seasonal availability. They learned which plants were edible, medicinal, useful for toolmaking, or suitable for construction. This knowledge required systematic observation, experimentation, and information preservation over many generations. Their understanding of animal behavior enabled successful hunting strategies and predator avoidance. They learned to track animals, predict their movements, understand their social patterns, and develop hunting techniques appropriate for different species. This knowledge required detailed observation, pattern recognition, and strategic thinking. The geological knowledge they developed enabled them to locate suitable cave sites, identify tool-making materials, and understand landscape formation. They learned to assess cave stability, predict water availability, and identify mineral resources. This knowledge was essential for site selection and resource exploitation. The cognitive capabilities demonstrated by early cave dwellers challenge our fundamental assumptions about human intelligence and capability. The problem-solving skills, planning abilities, abstract thinking, and innovative capacity they displayed were equal to anything demonstrated by modern humans. Their approach to innovation was systematic and sophisticated. They developed experimental methodologies, testing protocols, and refinement processes that enabled continuous technological improvement. They learned to identify problems, generate potential solutions, test different approaches, and implement successful innovations. These processes required advanced cognitive abilities, including hypothesis formation, experimental design, and systematic analysis. The memory systems they developed for preserving and transmitting knowledge were remarkable. They created mnemonic devices, storytelling traditions, and ritual practices that enabled accurate information preservation across generations. These systems required understanding of cognitive psychology, memory formation, and information organization. Their abstract thinking capabilities enabled them to develop symbolic representation, mathematical concepts, and logical reasoning systems. They learned to use symbols to represent complex ideas, develop counting systems, and create logical frameworks for understanding their world. These cognitive innovations laid the foundation for all human intellectual development. The environmental adaptation strategies developed by cave-dwelling humans enabled human expansion into every environment on Earth. The clothing technologies, shelter systems, food processing techniques, and survival strategies they created made it possible for humans to thrive in deserts, Arctic regions, tropical forests, and every other environment on the planet. Their clothing technologies were remarkably sophisticated. They learned to process animal hides, create waterproof materials, and design clothing systems appropriate for different environmental conditions. They developed techniques for creating insulating layers, wind-resistant outer garments, and specialized clothing for different activities. The food processing and preservation techniques they developed enabled survival during resource scarcity periods. They learned to process plants to remove toxins, preserve meat through drying and smoking, and create stored food supplies that lasted through difficult seasons. These techniques required understanding of biochemistry, food safety, and preservation science. Their water management systems enabled habitation in areas with limited water resources. They learned to locate underground water sources, collect and store rainwater, and process water to make it safe for consumption. These skills required understanding of hydrology, geology, and water treatment. The cultural traditions established by early cave dwellers provided the foundation for all human art, religion, and social expression. The cave paintings, ceremonial practices, burial rituals, and symbolic thinking they developed were the beginning of human culture as we know it. Their artistic achievements were remarkable in their sophistication and beauty. Cave paintings demonstrate advanced understanding of proportion, perspective, and artistic technique. These artworks required development of pigments, painting tools, and artistic methods that represent sophisticated technological innovation. The ceremonial practices they developed created social cohesion and cultural identity. They established ritual traditions, symbolic practices, and social ceremonies that strengthened group bonds and transmitted cultural values. These innovations required understanding of group psychology, symbolic communication, and social dynamics. The burial practices they developed demonstrate sophisticated understanding of mortality, social relationships, and spiritual concepts. They created burial rituals, grave goods traditions, and memorial practices that honored the deceased and provided comfort to the living. These practices indicate advanced cognitive and emotional development. The survival strategies developed by early cave dwellers under extreme conditions provide crucial lessons for modern humans facing environmental challenges. Their approaches to resource management, risk assessment, cooperation, and adaptation offer insights that can help contemporary societies address climate change, resource scarcity, and other environmental challenges. Their emphasis on sustainability provides particularly relevant guidance. They lived successfully for hundreds of thousands of years without degrading their environment, depleting their resources, or creating the kinds of problems that challenge modern societies. Their approaches to resource use, waste management, and environmental stewardship offer models for sustainable living. The innovation processes they developed remain relevant for contemporary technological development. Their approaches to experimentation, testing, refinement, and implementation of new technologies provide models for innovation that could enhance modern research and development processes. Their cooperative strategies offer insights for addressing contemporary social challenges. Their approaches to group coordination, conflict resolution, and resource sharing could inform modern approaches to international cooperation, economic development, and social organization. The archaeological record continues to reveal new aspects of early human sophistication and capability. Each new discovery reinforces the conclusion that our ancestors were remarkable innovators whose achievements laid the foundation for all human civilization. Recent discoveries suggest humans may have reached the Americas much earlier than previously thought, with evidence of human occupation more than 26,000 to 30,000 years ago, demonstrating the global reach of early human expansion and adaptation. Advanced dating techniques and analytical methods are revealing increasingly sophisticated aspects of early human behavior. New technologies enable archaeologists to detect evidence of activities that leave minimal physical traces, providing insights into daily life, social organization, and cognitive capabilities that were previously invisible. The integration of multiple analytical techniques, including micromorphological analysis, chemical analysis, and advanced dating methods, is creating increasingly detailed pictures of early human life. These techniques reveal aspects of diet, health, technology, and social organization that demonstrate remarkable sophistication. International collaborative research projects are enabling comprehensive analysis of early human sites across different continents. These collaborative efforts are revealing patterns of innovation, migration, and adaptation that demonstrate the global nature of early human achievement. The story of early human survival in caves before the Ice Age isn't just ancient history. It is a foundation story of human civilization itself. Every comfort we enjoy, every technology we use, and every social institution we depend on traces its origins to the remarkable innovations of these sophisticated ancestors. Their legacy reminds us that humans are fundamentally adaptable, innovative, and cooperative. The challenges they faced and overcame demonstrate that human ingenuity and determination can triumph over even the most difficult circumstances. Their achievements provide inspiration and guidance for addressing contemporary challenges. As we face our own environmental and social challenges, we can draw inspiration from their example. They prove that humans can not just survive in the face of overwhelming challenges, they can thrive, innovate, and create better lives for themselves and future generations. The caves they called home were not refuges of the desperate. They were workshops of innovation where the foundations of human civilization were forged by remarkable people whose achievements continue to inspire and amaze us today. Their story is our story, and their legacy lives on in every human achievement, from the simplest daily comfort to the most sophisticated technological marvel. Understanding their achievements helps us appreciate the depth of human capability and the power of human cooperation. Their example reminds us that our ancestors overcame challenges that seemed impossible, creating solutions that enabled not just survival, but flourishing. Their legacy provides both inspiration for the present and guidance for the future, demonstrating that human creativity, cooperation, and determination can overcome any challenge. As the last embers of our journey through early human survival fade like ancient campfires, we're left with a profound truth that shatters everything we thought we knew about our ancestors. These weren't primitive cavemen, barely scraping by in the darkness. They were sophisticated engineers, innovative scientists, and master survivors who achieved something remarkable. They didn't just survive before the Ice Age. They created the foundation for everything that would make us human. From the engineering marvels of their cave-mouth homes to the complex social networks that span continents, early humans demonstrated intelligence, creativity, and adaptability that rivals our own. They mastered fire not just for warmth, but for cooking, tool-making, and manufacturing. They created architectural systems that provided comfort and safety in harsh environments. They developed hunting techniques so sophisticated they could take down animals many times their size with minimal risk. Perhaps most remarkably, they built societies. Through language, art, religion, and cooperation, they created the cultural foundations that would eventually give rise to every human civilization. Their story holds crucial lessons for our modern world. As we face our own environmental challenges and social complexities, we can learn from their approaches to cooperation, innovation, and adaptation. They prove that humans are fundamentally problem solvers who can thrive in the face of overwhelming challenges through intelligence, creativity, and working together. The Victorian archaeologists who first imagined primitive cavemen living in darkness got it spectacularly wrong. The truth is far more inspiring. Our ancestors were brilliant innovators who turned cold rock shelters into warm homes, developed technologies that enabled them to master their environment, and created social systems that allowed them to thrive for hundreds of thousands of years. They remind us that we carry within us the genetic heritage of master survivors, people who faced down saber-toothed cats, engineered complex shelters, created the first art, and developed the social bonds that would eventually build civilizations. Their legacy lives on in every tool we use, every home we build, and every community we create. As we conclude tonight's journey into the remarkable world of early human survival, remember this: you are the descendant of people who didn't just survive in caves before the Ice Age. They transformed those caves into the birthplace of human civilization itself. The next time you flip a light switch, build a fire, or work together to solve a problem, you're reusing technologies and social strategies that were first developed by our remarkable ancestors in the cave mouths of ancient Europe, Africa, and Asia. Their story isn't just history. It's the foundation of everything that makes us human. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through time. Until next time, remember that within each of us lies the innovative spirit of those remarkable early humans who turned survival into triumph and darkness into light.